All right. Hello, willkommen, bienvenue, konnichiwa, ni hao, jambo, marhaba. It's time for the Armist Inquisition yet again, episode 304 on Sunday, the 12th of November 2023. I'm Phil.
I'm Ben.
I'm Matt.
And tonight I'm very happy to be joined by Jacob of Ephraim. How are you doing, Jacob?
Good. How you guys doing?
Good. Tell us more about how we say things fucked up in the UK.
Outrageous.
Well, okay, there's Tuesday instead of Tuesday. Like I said, like you guys are hungry. That's the day that y'all eat is Tuesday. You got to chew on the day.
Yeah, man.
You know? Instead of saying over there, it's over there.
Over there.
Over there.
Oh, my.
You know? So you got, and of course, we were just talking about simple words like go, it's G-O. Well, then why isn't do spelled that way? It's do.
Right. Go, as in going somewhere, should be spelled G-O-E.
Or pronounced
Right.
you.
So with D-O being do, N-O is no, but yet you can spell new, N-E-W, and do, N-E-W. Those are spelled the same, so why can't you do the other same with the D-O and the N-O?
I don't know. I just realized as well, D-O-E is dough.
A female deer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A female deer.
Instead of do.
You notice you said deer.
Oh, you learned something, Matt. Well done.
Thank you. But it's the wrong way
You
around.
notice you said deer instead of deer.
Deer. Deer.
Deer instead of deer.
Deer.
It's like if you pick like 10 people in the UK, one from Liverpool, one from Newcastle, one from the southeast, you'll have several. You know, there's 100 different ways of pronouncing deer just in our country, isn't there?
Oh,
Deer.
thousands.
Oh yeah.
Deer.
Well, even the word what. Like here we say what, W-H-A-T, but some people in England say what, and like W-O-T, and others, like Jason Stenham, it's what, and they don't even say the letter T. It's just what.
You what, mate?
What? Yeah,
What?
I have a silent T generally when I say what.
What?
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 Yeah. Or instead of saying mate and actually using
Mate.
T, like in Australia, they'll say, "What's up, mate?" They'll actually say the T. You guys are, "What's up, mate?" And you don't accentuate the T.
No, we drop a lot of consonants in the UK.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
They're all over the place. You're tripping up over them all the time.
Yeah. H is gone.
H's, T's.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
a nightmare.
We just focus
But
on...
almost so kind of, it would almost sound like a baby gibberish. We be like you, and I just said like 5 sentences right there.
Wow,
That's what you sound like.
Actually, if you really want to hear some gibberish, I'll tell you right now, go to southern Louisiana and you'll hear it, because you've got your regular southern drawl that they talk with down there, and then they also got what they call Creole language, which is kind of like a mix of a French influence. And then if you happen to be talking with an African American, I'm going to say it that way, that's from down there because they have their own slang that they talk to, you don't understand a lick of what they're saying at all.
No.
I had that experience at a restaurant one time. Like, she was talking and I didn't understand a word. I was like, I tell you what, I want this to drink, I want this to eat, and I want my eggs cooked this way. She turned around, you've got you do da dip some. Like, she says whatever it was that she said to the cooks, they just gave a thumbs up and started cooking it. Like, they knew exactly what it was. I couldn't understand a word.
Well, Jacob, as much as I hate to detract you from your quest of linguistic knowledge and analysis, this isn't your main point of interest, is it? Tell us about your YouTube channel. I mean, people will remember, if they tuned into episode 300, you called in and we talked a little bit about what you were doing there. But for the folks who didn't hear that, maybe we should get into it, what you're researching.
Right. Well, there's a lot of things that I research. My main focus that I deal a lot with actually has to do with solar weather activity. I'm actually wanting to go to school at Millersville University and be certified solar weather forecaster. And I mean, it could open up more doors for me to be able to, you know, I mean, technically, if you get enough schooling in, you could go work for NASA. Not that I would want to work for NASA, but that's like, or like the Weather Channel, something like that, the local Weather Channel. So stuff like that. But yeah, I'd like to grow it a little bit because my main quest, I've always been fascinated with the stars and with the planets and, you know, comets and everything. And in fact, what got me started was actually Halley's Comet back in, I think it was 1985.
You mean Halley's
when
Comet?
I was a kid. Yeah, Halley's Comet. Yeah, Halley. So that actually kind of got my intriguement going. And I've always had little telescopes and production. I'd always look up. Well, the most recent thing that really got me going was Nemesis, our second star. And for decades, you know, I'm 46 years old, and probably until I was about 42. I mean, I've heard about a lot of us have heard, what do you call it? Chinese whispers of Planet X and, you know, this other planet Nibiru. And it was a big thing back in the late 80s, early 90s. Everybody was talking about this stuff. And I'm like, well, what's this? What are you going on about? You know, what is this? You know, and, you know, it was kind of like not really there. I was kind of listening, but it wasn't really registering until later. I started just, you know, really diving in. I kind of left the strictest Christian religion in the Christian theological belief system, which was Mormonism. I pretty much left that behind and started really digging into answers from other places and trying to put a lot of things together. When I was 17, I actually went on my own spiritual journey. I left the church and went to other theological belief systems to kind of start putting those things together because we know about Babylon and how God come down and seen the star. Oh, what is this? Now we got to divide you guys up and confuse you. Well, that was something that always didn't sit right with me in the Bible. I was like, why if all these people are working together as one people in unity, why are you going to divide them up and confuse their language? So that didn't sit right with me. And, you know, you just start noticing little things. And you're like, what? Well, we know in war tactics, divide and conquer is one of the greatest things that you could do. Well, in the Bible, that's literally right there, like in your face, divide and conquer. So I started going in and then started learning more about the Sumerian cuneiform texts. And then I was able to, on my own, this wasn't a thing where I was influenced. On my own, through my own research, was able to link the Sumerians to the Bible, like hardcore, like it is absolutely linked. And so I'm looking for more signs of our second sun, Nemesis. I know that it's out there. And so I do a lot of coronal mass ejections, flares, you know, things that are going to impact the planet. I do, if it's going to be something significant, I'll do an update. I actually didn't do one a few days ago when we got up to a geomagnetic storm level 3 because it was actually kind of a surprise. A lot of people were surprised by it. So it was like, oh crap, well, I missed that one. So, but other things I do drops on are other informational researching. I don't know if you guys saw my recent one. I have a playlist called Psycho Clown World, where me and my co-host Figs, a lot of times she'll join me a lot, and we'll start talking about different subjects. And my most recent one is called A New World Order.
Right. Okay.
But instead of it being ANEW, like a new, it's ANU, as in the Anunnaki ruler, Anu.
Right.
A new world order. So when them sitting there telling us it's a new world order, this new world order, a new world, is it his world order that they're trying to bring here? I don't know.
You know, when you mentioned that the sort of Nemesis theory started getting sort of more noticed in the 80s and 90s, was this down to like Zachariah Sitchin or Velikovsky or someone like that? Was there a catalyst behind that?
Yeah, well, I know Zachariah Sitchin, he spoke a lot about Nibiru.
Yeah.
And Nibiru being the planet that the Anunnaki come from. Well, Nibiru is a planet that goes around Nemesis. It's its own star system, just like ours is. So it has planets too. And so when you do enough research on all of these things, sorry, my computer's jumping around a little bit. You start putting things together, and you're going, so you can actually kind of see, you know, you look at something like this, and then you kind of step back, and then you look at the other subjects and see how they link, and then you step back further and further and further. And you can kind of see how all of this stuff plays out, and you go, holy cow, this is there's a lot of truth going on here. There's some things that we don't know for a fact. Like, okay, I'm just going to get this out of the way, folks. I know there's a lot of people in the chat, not just on YouTube, but in the other things that are being displayed that you guys are podcasting on. We're going to talk about flat Earth for a second, okay, and round Earth and crater Earth, okay? There's lots of good arguments for flat Earth. I will give that. There are some pretty good arguments for flat Earth. There's also really good arguments for globe Earth, and there are really good arguments for crater Earth. I've looked at all of the theories. You can't be an open-minded, true researcher without being open-minded to all of it. So what if, now this is Jacob of Ephraim's theory 101 on this particular subject. We all know about CERN, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
CERN, yeah.
Okay, where they're colliding particles and atoms and stuff like that, and basically trying to recreate the Big Bang, and they're looking at it with all this stuff. Well, we also know that every time that if you're doing enough research, you realize every time that they do that, they're destroying the universe we live in, and we merge with a parallel universe right next to it, which explains the Mandela effects. Like they're like, wait a minute, he died. That's how all of that got started. It was when CERN started smashing atoms. So what if your memory, let's say Phil, let's say that you're a flat earther, okay? Ben, let's say that you're a crater earther. Matt, let's say that you're a globe earther, okay?
Why can't I be the globe earther?
No, just hear me out, okay?
It's not believable.
Right. So hang on. Let's just look at this from the now you three. Let's just say you three. Those are your three different perspectives, and I'm from outside of the box, and I'm going to make you go. Wait a minute. What if each one of you are from different paralleled universes, and one the Earth is flat, the other one it's a globe, and the other one it's a crater Earth, and we're all parallel merging because of CERN? What if all three at one point in some way, shape, or form in a parallel universe, it was correct? So you're arguing your points here and your points, but it's kind of ridiculous because what if all three were correct?
They can't all be correct at the same time, though, can they?
How can't they? If our universe is parallel shift, if we all parallel shifted, why can't it be?
Because do we not have to shift to one of the other, the flat, the crater, or the globe?
Right, but yes. You would have to be in one of those, but in your mind, because of the universe you came from, that's the way that it was.
Yes. So you would think you're right.
So which one do we actually? And the thing is because none of us actually know, because none of us have been up high enough to get away from it and look at the Earth and say, okay, yes, it's flat, it's a globe, or hey, it's crater. None of us have been there. So we kind of have to be open-minded instead of having like, oh no, you're an idiot. Blah. Nah, just stop.
You don't buy the old. You don't buy the old stick in the ground and measure the shadows kind of experiments to prove the curvature.
Now that took place. Like oh shoot, man, I can't remember the year, but that was a long time ago. The Romans, the ancient Romans, they built the megalith. Yeah, and it was like 200 feet tall and measured it at like 200 miles difference. And then they measured the length of the shadow at exact 12 noon and found out one's longer than the other ones, which shows the curvature of the Earth. Okay, that does make sense. However, how do we know that they were at the exact same altitude, that there was no difference in hills going up or down? It is kind of difficult, but I can understand the logic in what they're doing, but how do we know? Does that make sense? Because I wasn't there when they did the measurement. I wasn't there to see the geographical location and the layout and how everything was set up.
Yeah.
So we can't fully know that.
Can we just do a brief overview of crater Earth?
My eyes definitely aren't flat because they're rolling.
Do you know much about crater Earth, Jacob?
I've dived into the crater Earth thing quite a bit, and that's where some of the theories of like your extraterrestrials, because they're beyond the ice wall. It's at the South Pole, and that's where the extraterrestrial, because it's terrain, it's Earth, it's terrain, as in terrain, and they're from extra because they're not in our space, they're in the outer space of our space. So yeah, I understand the logical thinking of it and how it all goes, and with the whole Admiral Byrd going, flying past the ice wall and seeing. Yeah, trust me, I know a lot about all, and it's like that's a pretty valid argument, but how do we know he just didn't go to inner Earth? Could be inner Earth, could be beyond the ice. I don't know. I didn't go with him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Seeing is believing, I guess, isn't it? I guess the point that you're pointing out is that the majority of our knowledge as individuals is it's assumed. We assume someone else has done the job, done the work, and when they come up with a result, we generally accept it on face value, and there's no way of sort of. It's difficult to find truth without doing the investigation yourself and actually doing these experiments yourself and seeing what you find out.
Now, I will tell you, I do subscribe more to the globe Earth, and I'm going to tell you why. If you can research this on YouTube, on any search engine, levitating water with frequency. Okay, and you can see guys using speakers on top and bottom, and they can actually levitate, a drop of water inside of a sound frequency barrier, and it takes the shape of a perfect round globe. Okay, and they can put multiple, and they can stack one on top of the other one because it's the same frequency. It's not moving; it's just suspending it. Okay, so you've got all these drops that'll stack up on top of each other, and they're all perfectly round little drops of water. Well, what is the Earth? We're mostly water. Okay. We know that the universe has a vibrational frequency, sound, pitch, wavelength. Okay. Could that be what suspends us in space? Why there's the globe Earth? I mean, we know that we can produce it here. So as above, so below. I don't know. It kind of makes sense.
I think it kind of makes sense. Are you using one sort of woo to discredit another kind of
No,
woo thing?
not at all. I'm just saying from this perspective, from what I've seen, and at the same time with me always looking at the planets and seeing planets rotation, especially like Jupiter is the greatest example. You see Jupiter, it's round. All the other planets that we look at through any telescope are round. And when you see that red dot all of a sudden moving, obviously that thing is moving around in this direction, no matter how you want to shake it out. It's going around in one direction. Well, then obviously all the planets are. If we're on a planet, why would we be flat and the other ones be round?
Yeah. I've not heard of any like flat Marses coming on and talking about how other celestial bodies are flat. But to me, it doesn't matter what shape the Earth is.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. And that's really there's like, who really gives a F if it's flat, round, or crater? And the crater Earth thing is we're in a crater on top of a bigger planet. So okay, it's still round.
Yeah, and it's related to the moon as well, isn't there? Is it? It's Godvaj's videos where he talks about
Godvaj. Yep.
What about the moon? Oh, when we look up at the moon, what is it? Are we seeing a reflection or something? And we're living in one of the craters inside the moon.
Yeah, I've seen it. Yeah,
it's too much.
It's a reflection where if you turn it upside down, inside out, left to right, a certain kind of light shot. I've watched it and it's like, okay, I can kind of see some of the shapes. Some of them I can. I'm like, well, the problem with that is that I've looked at the moon multiple times with my own scope, and you can actually see deep craters inside of there. You can see the shadows kind of going in and out of the craters. And I've seen things through a telescope with my phone on it where, watching, and you can see things coming in and out of the freaking moon, just like Bruce sees all. Only he records it. He's got a much bigger telescope, much higher quality equipment. And Bruce Sees All, he's got a YouTube channel. He records this stuff. I don't know if you guys have heard of Bruce Sees All, but he hooks it up to his computer and he plays it all the time on YouTube. And you see things coming right out of the side of the moon, or going into the moon, or going from behind the moon, and coming around from behind the moon and going in front of the camera. And like, you see it all the time.
Well, spaceships.
Yeah. Well, I can't say spaceships. I don't know if it's a spaceship. I don't know if it's a spaceman. I don't know what it is, but I know it's some kind of an identified flying object out there around the moon. I don't know what it is.
Yeah. Have you ever seen the ISS flying past?
Oh, yes. Yep.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I've seen it once, I think.
Yeah, I've seen it. I've seen it a few times. Actually, in the evening sky, right before the sun went down, it actually lit up. And I've actually got an app on my phone.
We're still here.
That will allow me to, that can let me track.
We're just pushing a button. Here it is.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I've got an app on my phone that lets me know where planetary alignments are, and it tells you where the Hubble is. It shows you where the ISS is, and so when you see it, and you know that it's going to be coming up into your plane of view, you can get binoculars out or a scope, and if you want to have a pan and follow, you can do that. But yeah, and you can see it.
Those apps are cool. I use mine all the time. It's nice. We went out. My daughter and I went out last night to chase aurora because recently, the last couple of weeks, and you'll know more than us, Jake, about this, about the space weather, the odd space weather. But we've had auroras far south. There's Stonehenge in the last week or so in Britain. Mm-hmm. So and apparently it was supposed to be good last night, but it was misty where we were, so we gave up.
Well, it technically would have been around 6 o'clock this morning UTC time.
Oh,
we did
8 hours.
Yeah, we did get impacted. We were expecting an impact. We had a perfect Earth directed coronal mass ejection come out. It wasn't very major. It wasn't very dense, but it did. It was a perfect halo. If you're looking at the SOHO equipment, it was a perfect halo coming like so. It's like, all right, that baby. It's either cut, and when you see that, it's either coming directly at you or it's going exactly away from you, one or the other. And this time it was coming at us, but it wasn't really big. However, with that being said, tongue in cheek, you have to realize our geomagnetic field or shields or veil, however you want to look at it, is getting very weak right now because our North and South Pole are moving. They've been on the move for quite a while, but they're accelerating in the pace on their movement. And once we get to a certain point, there is that flip potential. Now, typically when that has happened in the past, and you can look at whether you want to just use the Bible, and let's just talk about Noah, because that's the most popular one. We know about the Bible. We know about the flood of Noah. We know the whole earth got flooded. Well, how do you flood an entire planet? You flip it. And you have tsunamis and mud floods that just kind of go across the entire planet in every which direction, not just one way, but on the backwash too.
But is that because there's two poles, isn't there? There's the magnetic pole, and then there's the pole that the Earth revolves around. Are we not? We're not confusing the two there when we talk about water and mud flying across the planet.
It'll be both. You see, you've got your axis north and south, and then you got your magnetic north and south that do oscillate and move a little bit. So that's where you get the term Earth wobble, because sometimes it kind of makes the planet wobble just a little bit. But the thing is once you get to a certain magnetic pole of a certain point, depending on, just like a tire, okay, you have weights that go on the side of your tire and they balance your tire to keep it running smooth, right? Well, once you kind of get to a certain point and you've got all your different land masses are like different weights around the globe, eventually it's going to go, oh, that's what causes wobble, and that can also be what causes us to flip. Now, when you start looking into the ancient Sumerian cuneiform texts and you look at other, like the Hopi tribes, the Zulu tribes, the Aboriginal tribes, and you start reading a lot of, or listening, because some of it you can't really read. You hear about it because you'll hear elders talk about it, like the Aborigines. They don't write nothing down. It's all through oral tradition. They do everything by oral tradition. So when you start listening to a lot of these things that they're telling you, you go, this has happened a lot of times before. So when you hear multiple times of the earth flipping, okay, it's cyclical. It happens on a regular basis. It's happened many times. Okay, how often is it going to happen? Well, as far as we know, for translation, we know that Sumerians talk about the flip, which is where the Bible got it from, the earth flipping. They didn't know it was an earth flip. They didn't know it was a geomagnetic pole reversal. They had no clue. They just used the terminology that they had to describe what was happening. And to them, the gods did it, or God did. Well, it's from our second sun, which their planet goes around. They came into it, and they're the ones that. So to them, the gods did it. God did it. No, it was our second sun that comes around.
That makes sense, because when you think of all these ancient civilizations, the planetary objects were associated with gods. Jupiter, Jove, or Sun, Ra. If a second sun did come in close, you would think that that's what they would term it as, a god. God has come and fucked us up.
Yep. What a dick, right?
Yeah, man.
Well, if the poles are about to flip, we might all be covered in mud, but at least we'll be able to say "I told you so" to all the flat earthers.
Yeah. Well, no. According to flat earthers, it's gonna take the flat Earth and it's gonna tip it one way and tip it the other like this. It's gonna be like a top, and we're spinning like a top.
Christ,
you take a top and you spin it like that, and that's why we go like this, and that's where the gravity comes from. I'm like, oh, okay. So at the South Pole, you really wouldn't even be able to go there because you'd be smack flat up against that big ice wall that you can't do nothing with, right?
This sounds kind of like, I remember when I reading Fingerprints of the Gods by Hancock years and years and years ago, and early on in the book he talks about this guy Charles Hapgood and his crustal displacement theory. Is this a similar sort of thing that you're talking about is possible?
Oh yeah, crustal displacement. So if we're really going to get into it, then let's get into it. So we're talking about our second sun. So what's going to happen? Well, I'm sure if you pay attention to the news at all, and of course, mainstream media, they're going to pop. They're going to pop up. Oh, this volcano's gone off over here. We're having these earthquakes. If you start paying attention, you'll start noticing earthquakes and tremors and swarms are happening everywhere. Iceland
that's all down to climate change, man.
Yeah, hold on. Yeah, I will explain your climate change, and you are correct, sir. There is such a thing as climate change. It's cyclical. It happens every 10 to 12,000 years. It's called an ice age and then not an ice age. Anyway, so when Nemesis comes around for its orbit around our main star called Sol, S-O-L, not S-O-U-L, like the English want to spell it. So Sol being our main, so is our soul connected to it? I don't know. But either way, and the Nemesis is what? An arch enemy, right? So did we name it Nemesis? I don't know. But either way, when it comes around, what's going to happen? You're going to have it's a smaller star. It's like a reddish brown dwarf star. And it comes around from up underneath us. Okay? From up underneath, which in my mind, that's why the whole Antarctica Treaty was ever put in place, because everybody's going to get along, because we need to see what's going on so we can govern our people after this flip.
Wow, and so they'll see it coming. They'll see it coming first, will they? In Antarctica, is that the idea?
Yep.
Fuck.
That's my thoughts on from all the recent. Now, is there a base in there? Yeah. Are there possible extraterrestrials there? Very possible. But at the same time, nobody goes down there. If you wanted to stay secluded away from people and not be disclosed, where would you want to go? To the most inhospitable place, because you've got ancient, supermassive technology that'll keep you warm, keep you fed, give you all the comforts that you're going to need. So go somewhere where they're not going to want to go. Antarctica, Arctica, under the ocean. Go where they're not going to explore.
So if it's like a little star, I mean, how big is a little star?
It's about 4 times the size of Jupiter.
4 times the size of Earth. So that's
Jupiter
size. So not that big then.
4 times the size.
No, four times the size of Jupiter.
Right.
But it will have the same mass density as our sun.
Oh,
shit.
That's a problem.
No, it's not. Gravity's fake and gay.
Okay.
Yeah, a wee bit. Now we'll talk about gravity in a minute.
Okay.
But it is a wee bit of a problem. And in the past, one of the times when it came in on one of its passes, it actually smacked our planet. Well, what our planet used to be. See, our planet is actually a recoalesced leftovers from its original parent planet, which was a planet called Tiamat. And it's between Mars and Jupiter. It's called the Kuiper Belt. It's a huge asteroid belt that goes around between Mars and Jupiter. Well, I've done enough digging on a lot of NASA archives, and they actually have a video where they had a computer simulation where they tracked all of these asteroids that are in the belt and monitored how they moved. And they did it for 20 years. And then they actually hit the rewind button. And because they had the trajectory and how it all moved calculated, they went backwards. And they went back it was like 100 and some odd thousand years ago. It all coalesced to one planet.
Wow. So, so you're saying it's called Tiamat. Is this where the Babylonian creation myth comes from then?
I don't know. I honestly can't tell you that when the Anunnaki first arrived, it was Tiamat. or if it was, I honestly don't know. I wasn't there, but I do know that some of these really old ancient relics that we are finding all over the planet, you know, like they found a hammer in, what was it, like Idaho or something like that, like way down deep. All the coal that was around it was, you know, because coal is considered carbon, and you can date carbon, you know, correctly with carbon testing, right? With carbon dated testing. It was over 3 million years old. And it looks like a hammer that just was like somebody did in like the 1800s. Well, how the hell did it get down there and get sealed up with 3 million year old coal? Well, because it came from probably a civilization from Tiamat before it got smacked. And then we ended up, now here's another possibility of crater Earth, flat Earth. Okay, so the Earth at one time, according to the Sumerian cuneiform text, Tiamat originally was 4 times the size of what Earth is. That was our original planet. And then when we got smacked, we basically went flat and then crater and then back flat again, and then recoalesced back into a globe. So all 3 could still be correct.
That was lucky,
from that perspective.
Yeah, that's
right.
all part of the same myth. Like the Babylonians talk about Tiamat being torn to sunder, and then its body essentially being the earth that we walk upon, and the sky and the sea. Our realm was created from the body.
If there was a bigger planet in between us and Mars, or Mars and Jupiter, and there was a civilization to see that be destroyed, you would probably remember it as a civilization, wouldn't you?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like PTSD on a galactic level.
Exactly.
Oh yeah.
Is it like?
Oh, for sure. I mean, just like with Mars. If you guys know about that huge canyon that's carved out of the side of Mars, happened at the same time.
Oh wow.
So there's actually I've done some reading. I don't know if have you ever heard of the Ascension Dictionary?
No, what's that?
It's a dictionary. If you were to go to ascensiondictionary.org, I think it is, and you look up, and they have all kinds of letters, and you can tap on it, and there's a bunch of different information in there. And one of them, if you go to History of Humanity, and you start it actually goes back hundreds of thousands of years and really starts laying things out and how things went. And now I'm not saying it's factual by any means, but it definitely stimulates the old peanut in the brain clicking around in that tin can. So you're like, wait a minute here. This can actually make sense. And it talks about a lot of these things that I'm referring to. Now, that's not where just one source. It just kind of stimulated the old brain. And I'm like, wow, that's pretty interesting. And then I started finding it in other sources. And I'm like, hey, that kind of reminds me of this over here, what I read. So when you start seeing other areas, like let's say the topic of Tiamat, and you start seeing evidence in other cultures where they talk about this same kind of an event happening, there's a pretty damn good odd that actually happened, but they're just telling it from their perspective, their language that they understood.
Yeah, every culture applies its own references in describing the same event. So you'll have common threads through the story. It's whether it's this kind of sort of dispersalism, isn't it? That, again, going back to Hancock, he's talked about it. We're going back to the flood. You've got the Epic of Gilgamesh, you've got Noah in the Bible, you've got South American flood traditions, and his sort of theory is that they all go back to one event, and we have this cultural memory or cultural echo. We're a civilization with amnesia.
Well, in a sense, he's actually not wrong though, because we don't really know exactly the true story of our past. I don't like using the word history because I know it's for his story, and fuck his story. I'm talking about the real story of humanity. What is our real story? What would be the epic of humanity? You got the Epic of Gilgamesh, and what's our actual epic? I want to know what that real story is. And the only way to do that is to look into other cultures and other peoples, what they've been taught from traditions, and try to step out of each single one and try to put all of it together in one big picture so you can see the beautiful art that it is, so to speak, if you will. But anyway, so back to Nemesis. We kind of off of it for a minute. So when Nemesis comes up from underneath us, we know that we have a magnetic north and south pole. Well, so does the sun. So does every planet. Every star, every planet, every moon. They have a north and south magnetic pole. Well, if it's coming up from underneath us, what's going to happen? It's going to grab our pole and it's going to start pulling just like this. And we're going to go, whoop. Once we get to a certain point, we're just going to flip right over. Now, our previous North and South poles, magnetic North and South pole, which the axial North and South pole would have to be in general proximity of your magnetic North and South pole, if that makes sense. I mean, our magnetic North and South pole can't be on our sides if we're spinning on our axis this way. It's not going to work out.
Okay.
You know, it's got to be both on the one way. Now, your axis can be sideways while your magnets are this way, but if your magnetic is sideways, your axis, if your magnetic is sideways, it's gonna join it. And Uranus, the rings around Uranus is a perfect example of that. Like, how did that happen? The magnetic North and South pole are this way, but its axes are this way, and it spins like this.
Oh wow!
Well, how in the world would that happen? Oh, another planetary object coming in and grabbing it and flipping it over, and it never got corrected because the last time it came through, it was on the other side of the solar system while Nemesis was passing over here, and it didn't grab it. So anyway, as it comes up from under us, it's going to grab us and flip us, obviously. So it shows that it does come through. And then the Sumerian cuneiform text said they would reign the king's list, the ancient Sumerian king's list. They had what was called a shar, and that was like a time of rule for one king, one Anunnaki king. It was like 12,600 years, roughly, something like that. Well, that's funny. 12,600 years ago was the Lechamp event. Huh. And then about 12,600 years before that was another one, and then another one. So about every 12,000 years, you know, roughly. Now, it's not exact. I'm giving rough because things can change and alter and vary in a little bit here and there. So just roughly, we'll just say 12,500. We'll just call it 2,500, 12,500. There are events that happen. Well, okay, it's cyclical. Well, what explains it? Well, the Sumerians are talking about a shar, which is a reign of rule for one king. So basically, I'm King Jacob, and I'm going to run this planet for this shar. Oh, look, here comes my planet. I'm going home. Next king's in line. Whoo, get me off this rock. I'm going home. He goes home. Another king comes in and takes his place to rule the planet, and then he's there for one shar or whatever. And then he goes, no, I don't. I'm going to stay here. I kind of like ruling these sons of bitches. So then, you know, he waits for another shar or however long. Does that make sense? The cyclical shars of the planet coming around. So it's like, it makes sense. And the other thing is when you start looking at all of these other ancient civilizations and their teachings of after a great deluge or cataclysm or whatever this event was, there's beings that come and assist them to help guide them back from the fallen state that they were, where they were living good, and then all of a sudden all this great devastation happens, and then these beings show up to help them out.
Right, Quetzalcoatl be one example, won't it? Oannes.
Yeah, Quetzalcoatl, Kukulkan, Thoth, all of that, same ordeal. And actually, Quetzalcoatl and Thoth and Kukulkan are actually believed to be the same person, Thoth.
Right. Now, is the idea that this Nemesis star orbits our star, or is it on some completely wacky? Right, so it goes around our sun, but it goes sort of at 90 degrees to the plane of the ecliptic, would it be called? Yeah,
so if this is the sun, and we know that we go around like this, right? We know we go around our sun like this, it comes up like this. It comes up from underneath. Now, and the thing is we know that they tell us things in movies. Sometimes they put it on our money, just like the dollar bill. You got the Illuminati triangle on the back of the United States $1 bill. Well, on the Netherlands franc, the Dude, DEUX, $10 bill, they actually on the back, and I don't know if it's on the new one now, but on the back of one of the bills, it actually showed the sun, all of our planets, and Nemesis coming right up from underneath it. It was literally printed right on the back of their bill, and it's like, why are they doing that? Why would they even bother doing that? Because they're putting it in your face.
Who are they?
The Illuminati. Those elites, those that want to consider themselves puppet masters, they have to tell you, because these super elites, and I'm sure you guys already know this, they have to tell you what they're going to do in some way, shape, or form before they do it, so they don't have the karma to come back on, because they are big believers in karma. Whether you do or not, they do. And that's what's important to know, to kind of get ahead of it. I mean, are you guys Star Trek fans at all?
Yeah.
Okay. The movie one of the ones with Star Trek with Khan.
Khan.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, Khan. Yeah. So in the very beginning, what planet are they on with the indigenous people?
Shit.
Come on, Star
The one
Trek
with the volcano that Spock went in to go save the people. What's the name of that planet? What color was the planet?
Not even the color, Ben.
I don't even know the color.
Okay, you guys are not Star Trek. Okay, it was red.
I was going to guess
It was
red.
red. It was a red
say
planet.
blue, so I would have been out.
No, it was a giant red planet. It literally, the scene opens up and you see these red trees and red octagons, kind of like, the top of Saturn is the shape of an octagon, like a square or a cube if you flip it. Those little shapes all over the place on the ground. And then all of a sudden, right underneath it says Nibiru.
Nibiru.
Didn't know.
Yeah. And now Star Trek, the Federation went there to stop a volcano from exploding and wiping out the entire species, right? And because the people, they were indigenous. Now let's mirror that. Wouldn't we be the indigenous people every time Nibiru passes through? Yeah. Because, I mean, they're space-wearing civilization. We're not like that. So they put things in our face all the time. In fact, there's actually a video game called Nemesis. I mean...
There's a ride at Alton Towers.
There is. Can I ask then? So, we spoke about the terrifying impact they would have on planets, but what about the sun?
We didn't even talk about all of them. We just talked a quick little... I mean, we're talking about earthquakes, volcanoes, making the sun...
There we go.
Because you're talking about two magnetic bodies that are pulling, so the sun is going to be erupting more. We're talking about like a micronova. In fact, I think in my thoughts, when it comes around for its pass, these two magnetically strong, dense bodies, the only way that's going to push it out into another 12,600 year orbit is when our main star micronovas poof and pushes it back out again.
Shit. Do you reckon it might cause the moon to fall into the Earth at any point?
No, it'll probably push it off track, like out.
Right. So that's a better scenario, I think, from what I've seen.
Wow, so it must be like a very sort of ellipse-shaped orbit that it's doing then. Because when you were describing it as going over and above us like that, I had like a circle in mind, but it must be like an ellipse.
Not a circle.
There's no circles in astronomy.
Yeah, well, it depends. If you were, I was watching Dave Matheson was doing a show with Simon Shack and Patrick Holmquist on the
really cool guys.
It's really cool guys, and they're going to show you the Takeosh model, and that's all circles, but that's a different show for another day. Mm-hmm. So it just comes. So it's like would it be like a 24,000 year revolution then this second sun is doing, and then every 12,000 years it intersects with our ecliptic and fucks things up?
No, I think it's a 12,000 around now, between 12 and 13. We'll just call it 12.5, around 12,005, 12,600 years. No matter how it comes in, it's gonna fuck with the planet. It's gonna fuck with all the planets. I mean, no matter how you want to look at it, it's gonna cause a little mayhem. So every time it comes around, now depending on where we are, so like if my nose is the sun and we're over here and it wants to come up this way and go in front and then go behind, it's going to do the least amount of damage. But if we're on one side or the other, we're in trouble.
Where is it now? I mean, I can't find it on my app.
I don't know. I've not been down to the South Pole and I don't have any infrared gear, so I couldn't give you that answer. However, I have been paying attention to science news. And there's several different organizations, but 3 years ago, I noticed an article where scientists were completely astonished that the South Pole of Pluto was 150 times hotter than they've ever seen it get before ever. Like it was hot, like glowing hot. And they're like, what in the heck? What is that?
It's all the fossil fuels they're burning over there.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, it's the cows farting, causing that gas, So it happened on Pluto, and then it happened at Neptune.
Oh,
and they noticed it at Neptune. And they're like, wait a minute here. And it's like, okay, and that was like about 18 months later, it happened at Neptune.
Oh, this is like the day after tomorrow where the buoys start flashing, heating up, and then another one goes, and then they go, oh, the ocean's rising in temperature.
And then I want to say about 6 months ago, actually, I think I did a video on this. In fact, a lot of the stuff that I talk about, I actually kind of put out in a lot of my videos. I have a playlist with several different things you can go watch. And then I noticed that there was an article that came out where they actually observed one. I can't remember the name of the moon right now off the top of my head, but one of the moons of Jupiter, and it's an ice moon. The whole thing is just it's a round ball, and it's all ice, and it had spewed hundreds of thousands of tons of gallons, like I couldn't even give you the measurement, of water straight out of it. Well, if it's an ice moon, how did it turn to water? It had to get warm.
They say I watched
something for it to spew out. Something had to heat it up in order for water to spew off of an ice moon. And now I saw this just a few days ago, and I'm like, now are we on share screen? Can we do a share screen?
Go for it. We'll sort it out on our end, hopefully.
It's weird because space is famously cold.
All right, let me do this really quick.
I think in the mainstream, they explain that by the size of Jupiter and stretching and contracting the moon, basically, by its gravity.
Oh, so
all right, I'm on
friction.
Okay.
Pressure.
I don't know if I have it.
Yeah.
No, I don't have it on this.
Enceladus.
Okay.
Enceladus, was that it?
I think
Enceladus is meant to have water on it, yeah.
Yeah, that's the moon. That's an ice moon. And it sprays out plumes of
ice.
I don't know exactly what you guys can see right now, but I see this. Here we go. Can you guys see my screen?
You can say zoom.
It just says zoom. You can see.
Really?
I don't know what
it shows that I'm doing. Let me stop share screen real quick and let me do another. Try it again.
We're gonna have to get rid of zoom. It really is shit. Try something else.
Well, if I hit the right one, it would probably help.
Yeah,
can you guys see that?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Oh, we got a picture of Saturn now.
Oh, that's
beautiful.
Yeah.
What does that say?
Saturn's regal
rings will disappear in just 18 months.
Wow. Let me set an alarm.
So, well, no. If you think about it, what would cause now? Saturn's rings, they've said many times, it's made up mostly of ice. Now, there's asteroids and rocks and debris, but there's a crap ton of ice in there. And that's what makes it reflect. For us to be able to see the rings in the first place is the ice. Why would the rings disappear? Well, probably because the ice is going to melt. And we're not going to be able to see it. Well, what would cause it to melt?
Yes. A plasma
Do you smell what I'm stepping in?
Well, you would imagine some sort of heating.
Yeah, some form of now I don't think anybody's out there with like a little butane or a Bic lighter trying to heat the things up. So someone's got to do it.
Or a pressure drop.
Maybe
changes in pressure would change the state of certain matter.
Is there pressure in space? I thought it was zero vacuum. I thought it was vacuum. There shouldn't be any pressure.
I'd be feeling a lot of pressure if I was floating around space. Let me tell you that. But I don't know. No, it's a vacuum, right?
Suspend
disbelief.
Sorry, I tuned out there. I was sorting
there we go.
Cam out.
There we go. All right, I was like, what's going on with the screen here? So
how does a star change, make things outgas like that, or convert ice into water or something? And what's the process?
Well, it's a star from radiation, heat.
Right, so it's heat. So in the same way that we get hit by heat from our sun, if another sun's coming up from below, it's going to heat up much in the same way.
Well, any kind of radiant heat. I mean, you're not going to put your hand right on a light bulb right after you turn it off because it's hot. I mean, you put same thing with snow. You put snow up in your hand, it's going to melt, turn into water. Same kind of thing. So any kind of a radiant heat source is going to cause ice to melt.
So you were talking about, you started talking about the further out planets first. You went to Pluto and then Neptune, and then you and that last picture was Saturn. So you're working your way inwards from the outer solar system inwards towards us. So how does that? Yeah. How do you describe that with Nemesis? What does that tell us about where Nemesis is?
like I said, I don't know exactly where, but by seeing those effects on those planets, that tells me it's in our solar system. It's here. So
I'm just wondering
the thing
why.
is, though,
I'm wondering.
as you get closer to a magnet, because so like our sun being one magnetic source, if you've ever pushed two magnets together with two northern polarities, you go to push one and it kind of pushes it, right? You know, if you take two magnetic bars, both of them north to north, you push it, it'll like that. Well, as it gets closer, it's going to kind of it'll start slowing down a little bit before it gets ready for its, and then it's going to, oh, okay, yeah, I'm going to keep going this way. So it's a dance that I don't know exactly, and honestly, scientists don't know exactly how that's going to work either, but it does slow down on its approach, especially with our pole. We know, or with our sun, we know that it has magnetic output changes. That's why they call them solar cycles. So you can have a northern polarity at the North Pole and a southern polarity, and then it does a solar cycle of a flip, really. So then the North Pole will actually put out a southern magnetic polarity, and then the northern one will come out of the south. It actually does it regularly. It does it every 11 years. They call it that's how the solar cycles work. Well, I don't know what the solar cycle is of Nemesis. I have no clue. So if you've got the northern or the southern polarity on our star and the northern one on Nemesis, it's actually going to speed up. Do you see what I mean? And then, of course, you're going to have, then the sun's going to be like, oh, no, you got to go micronova and send us. In fact, a lot of the stuff that we find on our planet, you can almost see evidence of it when you look at our Earth. If you look at Google Maps and you look at our planet, you can see scarring, like burnt earth, scorched earth all over the place. So imagine the sun having a micronova in gold. Now that's another thing I can talk about. Gold hitting the planet. We associate gold, at least the ancients did, gold with the sun. Right? It was, oh, this is a gift from the sun. It's from the gods. It's from the sun. It's gold. It's like the color of our star. What if that's actually not far from the truth? What if it actually is from the sun? And when the sun micronova and bursts out, it actually throws gold out. Because if you've ever looked at a, like a screen for like a gas stove, you got that little filament filter. And sometimes they're made out of brass, and there's like teeny tiny little balls that are kind of fused together. Well, what if that's how our sun works? And that's how the gas kind of escapes through, is just those little holes. And yet, when it has a big micronova like that, it blows chunks of it out and hits the earth. I mean, a lot of gold that's found is actually, most of the gold, especially in California and New Mexico and even Alaska, most of the gold that is found is less than 30 feet deep. That's a surface smack.
Wow.
And if you start actually if you actually go on Google Earth and you look, you'll start seeing little patterns where it looks like it could have came in and we got smacked with it.
Because you just think of like a gold mine, you're having to go down hundreds and hundreds of feet to dig out this stuff that was created billions and millions of years ago. But most of it's only 30 feet down.
A lot of the stuff that they find, like I said, in California, Alaska, and New Mexico is within 30 feet.
And that's all on the same seaboard.
I'm not saying globally. I'm just saying those areas, because those I've actually looked into, and I was like, oh, wow, that's very interesting.
Yeah, so other gold deposits could have been, put in with the same mechanism, but in different time frames.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's interesting. That makes sense. Where else would it come from? Why do we have to harvest it? Are you an Anunnaki? We're enslaved to mine the gold for the Anunnaki who live on Nibiru. And when they come back and give us a smack, they want to harvest.
It makes a lot of sense. Why are human beings obsessed with gold?
It's pretty useful.
Yeah.
It's a metal, doesn't tarnish.
Right, yeah. But how did we get that information and know that gold was even useful in the first place? I mean, let's say before it's useful for electronics, for us to do this conversation and this video. All the way back in the ages before technology, why would they put a value on gold? Honestly, what value was gold to them back then? It wasn't. You needed food.
Yeah. It is strange.
Yeah, so why do you need a value on gold? I've got wheat. You've got green beans. Let's switch out. Oh, you've got tomatoes. Here, let's switch out. Barter and trade. So what do you need gold and silver for? You can't eat it. You're not going to put it in a little coin slot at Walmart to ride the little horsey thing out front, because there wasn't any. You didn't need that crap. So where would we all of a sudden get this obsession with gold from? It had to be implanted into our DNA.
Do you not know?
I don't know. I have no idea.
I mean, the only thing I could think of is
rarity, I guess.
Well, there's that, and also it's this idea, I suppose, with human nature around passing something on. And if you had something made and you could pass it on to maybe your children something like that.
I would say this is a very modern worldview. It's like you go to these tribes in the Amazon or in Africa, they've no concept of property, of owning anything. It's like a thing is an object, it's a tool. It's not mine. It's just a thing to use.
Yeah.
This is a modern, well, I say modern, we're in the last sort of 5,000 years.
You could literally hand them a 2-pound gold bar or a 20-pound gold bar,
paperweight.
Hand them a clay pot, and they're going to take the clay pot because they can use that to scoop water and get something to drink. They don't get, what am I going to do with this for?
It's useless.
Hold something down?
All this paperwork?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is interesting. I mean, I would say some people would say, well, maybe the problem is the barter system. Once you get to a civilization or a tribe or a clan of a certain size, that bartering becomes inefficient, and therefore you need a means of value storage, a way to store value, a common token, a means of trade, and that's why. And tax as well. Because, if you're a king, you can't tax a chicken. You can't cut its leg off and say, that's my bit for the government, can you? You need to have some sort of means of exchange where you can get your piece.
Well, what do you mean? In the Bible, he says, give me the best flock of your chickens and your goats and your sheep and your cows. You give me all the first flocks, the good ones, and that's my tax. Come feed me.
But how many chickens do I need to eat, Jacob? It's like, I don't want chickens.
Bro. I don't know. How much do you like chicken?
I want a tricked out chariot. I want a tricked out chariot. I want a massive walled city. I want lots of weapons. I don't want chickens. I want power. And you need money for that.
What if you sharpen the beaks on the chickens?
Wow. Now you're thinking outside the box.
Sharpen the beaks on the chickens. Use them as arrows.
Use them as weapons.
Absolutely.
Oh, gosh,
use them against your enemies.
Yeah.
I just want to go because we're coming up. We've done nearly an hour already, Jacob. And I didn't want to leave you hanging. I didn't want to feel like we'd ended this without you saying or getting over anything you needed to about your research and whatnot. Because we talked a bit about pole shift and a bit about Nemesis. We didn't really talk much about CMEs. I mean, what actually?
Coronal Mass Ejections?
Yeah, I mean, you talked about the planet having scarring, like we were literally getting plasma beams shot at us from the sun.
Yep.
But I mean,
would you like to see some examples?
Yeah, all right. Yeah.
Of something that could absolutely do it. Now, you guys, do you guys follow Ben from Suspicious Observers?
No.
There's only room for one Ben.
We know who you mean. We know who you mean. I do subscribe to the channel, but it's just too much. I'm not watching it every day.
Okay, so I'm gonna do another share screen, and I'm gonna do a little sharing with you guys of a couple things of scenarios of things that could very well be. So
okay,
let's go here. Now, what is this? Right here, get out of here. I've got something going on here that's not closing. Get out of here. There we go. All right. Let's go. Oh, bloody hell.
That's it. We've got it.
Yeah.
Well, it's not. My screen is not wanting to maximize. I literally got to drag it over. It's getting annoying. Okay. So one of the things that we can have, you guys can see my screen, yes?
Yes.
Yeah.
Can you see the whole screen? Okay, there we go. Okay. So if you guys look right over in here, I'm going to show you guys just the area to zoom in on. You see this part right here? This is very high dense amount of plasma. You notice how it's kind of shaped like an arrowhead right here? Okay, so I'm going to show it as it comes out.
Is that a prominence, Jacob?
Yeah, it's a prominence. Well, actually, it's not a prominence because it lifted off of the sun's surface. Thank you very much.
Okay.
So now you can see it as a very sharp, clear wedge. Okay, it goes down one side to a point, and it's denser in the middle, and then down this way. So this would actually go through our geomagnetic field like an arrow through a deer. Right. That is very dense. So if that thing was to come at the planet directly at us, now we've not had one before.
Wow.
Just like, yeah, so I'm kind of going slow with it so you can really kind of see it as it moves. If something like that were to hit our planet, that would be a bad day. That'd be like popping a balloon.
So smash straight through our atmosphere, it would like a sharpened chicken. It would
slice right through us. That would be a problem. We've never had one. Now, one of the other things is this is a prominence that we actually just recently had, was this one that released. Now, this one is also pretty dense as well. You can see this prominence here right before it lifts off. Now, the one thing that does scare me, though, now we have these all of the time, when these expand, these regular loops, they expand out and they get dissipated, diluted by solar winds from the sun, just from the expansion. It goes in multiple directions, and usually we're okay by the time it gets to the planet, right? However, there are occasions where I'm going to do this, and I'm using Ben's channel as a example. Do you guys see that coronal mass ejection?
That one on the right-hand side, that big thing.
Yeah, this right here.
Yeah.
Okay, when this comes out, it actually comes out in a spiraling vortex, like a tornado.
Like a corkscrew.
Yeah, or like a tornado of just highly charged, very dense plasma. Now, if something like this were to come right at us, it is game over.
Oblivion.
Like, our fields are down, all power is out, the whole planet, we're screwed. Wow. Very, and I mean instantaneously. If you're a plane and you're in the air, guess what? You ain't going to be.
What about all that gold I'm not going to be able to collect?
Now, the thing is that I actually couldn't tell you if there's gold associated with it or not. It depends on the intensity. I think that I personally think that it's more possible that the gold would come from a micronova, because that is a very deep internal pop, which would kind of blow the filament on the outside, which could be used as a filter for or a restrictor for the gas to come out. So that way, it kind of keeps the light bulb burning or the gas burning for a regulator. It's like a little gas regulator on a stove. If you look at a gas regulator, it's like a little brass, looks like little brass balls all kind of welded together in a shape. Well, if it does that to regulate the fuel to come out to burn at a certain rate, well, couldn't the sun be made out of that? I mean, if we are associating gold with that and we know how gas works through a stove, it's very possible. That's kind of how I envision it, considering when you see gold on the surface, that's like somebody throwing gold at you.
So how long does it take for that to get here?
9 minutes.
It depends on what's behind it. If it's like a M flare, it could take about 4 days. If it's from like an X5 or higher, it could take as little as 24 hours or less.
Okay. And
I'm sure they'll tell us when they spot it coming.
No. And so the famous one, even I've heard of, is the Carrington event. So how
that brings us, you said that, and that brought us right this next page that I'm showing you here is actually a Carrington level event that happened July 23rd, 2012.
It just went the wrong way.
It just went the wrong way. See, this is us over here. All right, let me bring this up to max. This is Earth over here.
Yeah.
And this is Carrington event going out that way.
Fucking hell, that's like a quarter of the solar system it's
Someone's
hitting.
colored that in very red.
Yeah, it was very dense, very hot, and moved very quickly. It actually went out past Mars. This is the orbit of Mars right here. You see the line here? It went past Mars in less than 12 hours.
And it's just sort of luck that it happened at a time of year where we were on the opposite side.
Yeah, so I'll actually hit play. This is actually on a video, so we can actually watch. Here we have a blast. But watch this thing when it comes out. It's like, whoa, that's not even it.
And hang on, that was 2012.
Yeah, that was 2012. This was a Carrington level event. It just went the other direction. We're over here, and it went off that way.
What date was it?
July 23rd.
July 23rd.
July 23rd, 2012.
Hang on, let me check the codex.
Yeah. How often do these events occur at that sort of scale? Carrington level events?
It depends on the solar. It really depends on.
We really don't know, because how long have we been measuring this shit?
We've actually, okay. They want to use previous data that they've collected from the Earth to kind of what they think to simulate cycles from the past.
Right.
But we didn't have the technology to actually start observing the sun, to start measuring these things until we could actually put satellites out in space. So it's been at least since the 50s. So they're taking data and they're trying to scale it backwards. And it's like, okay, just stop.
And say
they really don't know.
If a Carrington size event hit us, say, in Roman times, would we even know?
Their internet would go off.
No.
That's my point. We wouldn't even know. So they could happen every 200 years, for all we know.
Yeah, it could happen every 200 to 300 years, and we wouldn't know. The thing is the Carrington event. The only time that anybody actually knew about the Carrington event is those that were near the new electrical grid that was just coming online with the telegraph wires. They were just starting to get off the ground with a little bit of electricity and telegraph wires, deep, 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 and stuff like that. And they were like bursting into flames. And like the people that were doing like connections and stuff were getting shocked, and they were like, what's going on? They didn't know what was going on. That's why all your telephone poles and all your power lines, they're all grounded now, because they know that it'll prevent that for the next time. That's also why all of our houses way back in the day were painted with lead paint. So that way, if we had a CME impact, lead is going to protect you from all of that radiation. But now we don't. Kind of rude.
But you do.
Yeah, my house, thankfully, is still covered in lead paint. Yes.
Keep it.
Yeah.
Keep it. All this whole thing with the doctors and all these, they want the medical community. They say, oh, well, lead paint is what's causing the autism in kids, and they're eating these lead paint chips and whatever. I'm not saying that it doesn't, but it's kind of funny that the time that they were saying that is right about the time that they were giving, freaking vaccinations and crap, all that. So whatever.
Well,
there's no swearing on this podcast.
Jacob, we've blown over an hour already. Is there anything you want to leave us with, or anything you need to tell people about before we wrap this up?
Well, just keep your eyes open, no fear, and remember that love is really the only way forward.
Is that love going to protect me from the CMEs?
Lead paint.
Oh, sorry. Yeah,
it depends on if it's reciprocated.
Oh, fuck. Right. Well, this has been good. It's been good fun, this, Jacob. We should do this again later, some other time.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think
there's literally, if you guys want to have me on a guest on a regular, maybe once a month or whatever, literally shoot me a text and say, hey, we'd kind of like to talk about this. Or if you watch some of my videos and you see some other things you want to talk about, let me know.
Good luck with the university, Jacob. And when you're on the Weather Channel, just remember not to mention anything you've said tonight.
I'll talk about it openly. I don't give a crap.
Right.
Cool.
I'm a free man, not a Freemason.
Right.
Cheers, man. See you
Jacob,
later.
nice one.
Right,
Take care. You lot, we'll see you in... Night. We'll see you in part 2 very shortly. And we're going to open We're going to open the phone lines and see what happens.
Yeah.
Hey, I might be back in 20 minutes.
Right. See you later.
Cheers,
Take time.
Good luck.